The cargo ship Starling moved slowly through the darkness of space. It was an old ship, small and tired, carrying medical supplies to a distant colony. Captain Park Jin-ho stood at the bridge window and watched the stars. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and deep lines on his face. Life in space had not been kind to him. But he never complained. "Captain, we are 2 hours from the station," said Lieutenant Baek Yuna. She was a sharp woman with quick eyes and a quicker mind. She had served under Jin-ho for 6 years and trusted him completely. Jin-ho nodded. His wife and daughter were waiting at Orbital Station 12. He had not seen them in 3 months. His daughter had just turned 7, and he had missed her birthday. Again, the guilt sat heavy in his chest, but he pushed it down. This was the life of a human in the galaxy. Small jobs, long trips, no respect. Humans had joined the Galactic Assembly 300 years ago. They were told it was a great honor. But the truth was different. The older species saw humans as children, primitive creatures who lived short lives and felt too much emotion. Human ships were stopped and searched for no reason. Human colonies paid extra taxes. When humans asked for help, the Assembly said they were busy. The galaxy had been at peace for 10,000 years. The great species had grown soft and comfortable. They had forgotten what war meant. But humans had not forgotten. They could never forget. "Captain," said Engineer Choi Nari from her station. She was the youngest crew member, only 24, but brilliant with machines. "I am picking up strange signals." "Military frequencies." Jin-ho turned. "Military? Out here?" Before Nari could answer, the ship shook. Alarms screamed. Through the window, Jin-ho saw 3 massive warships appear from nowhere. They were black and covered with weapons. He had never seen anything like them. "Velthari ships," Yuna said, her voice tight with fear. "The Velthari Dominion. They are from the Outer Rim." The Velthari were a legend. A nightmare. They had been quiet for centuries. But stories said they conquered everything they touched. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They simply destroyed. "Get us out of here," Jin-ho ordered. But it was too late. The Velthari ships flew past the Starling like it was nothing. They were not interested in a small cargo ship. They had a bigger target. Orbital Station 12. Jin-ho watched in frozen horror as the Velthari opened fire. The station had no weapons. No shields. It was a civilian place, full of families and children, and ordinary people living ordinary lives. The first blast tore through the station's center. The second broke it in half. The third turned it into fire and dust. 40,000 people died in less than a minute. Jin-ho could not move. Could not breathe. His wife. His daughter. They were there. They were right there. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Dr. Kim Tae-ho rushed to the bridge. He was the ship's medic, a gentleman with kind hands. But when he saw the destruction on the screen, his face went pale. He had seen death before. Long ago, he had been a combat medic in Earth's last war. But this was different. This was murder. "Captain," Yuna said softly, "we need to move. They might come back." Jin-ho did not answer. He just stared at the empty space where the station used to be. Somewhere in that cloud of metal and fire was everything he loved. Nari was crying at her station. "I am sending a distress signal to the Galaxy Council. They have to help. They have to do something." The response came quickly. A cold, official message from the Council's emergency office. Jin-ho read it 3 times, unable to believe the words. "Human vessels are not priority assets. Seek shelter. Council forces are engaged elsewhere." Not a priority. 40,000 dead, and humans were not a priority. Something changed in Jin-ho at that moment. Something broke, and something else took its place. The sadness in his chest turned hard and cold. It became something darker, something dangerous. "Captain," Tae-ho said carefully, "what do we do?" Before Jin-ho could answer, the communication system crackled. A new signal. This one came from Earth, from the United Defense Command. It was marked with a code Jinho had never seen before, a code that was supposed to be extinct. Military activation. The message was short. Just 3 sentences. But those sentences changed everything. All human vessels return to Earth immediately. Military Protocol 7 is now active. We remember what war is. Jinho read the message again. Military Protocol 7. He had heard stories about it as a child. When humanity joined the galaxy, they were told to destroy their weapons. They were told peace was the only way. And officially, humanity obeyed. Officially. Set course for Earth, Jinho said. His voice was different now. Harder. Earth? Yuna asked. Captain, that is 3 weeks away. What about survivors? What about, there are no survivors? Jinho turned to face his crew. His eyes were dry. Empty. The Council will not help us. They never have. They never will. So we will help ourselves. Nari wiped her tears. What is Protocol 7? Tejo answered. His voice was quiet, almost afraid. It means Earth is going to war. Real war. The kind the galaxy forgot. The starling turned and jumped into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, the ruins of the station drifted in silence. 40,000 souls. Gone in an instant. Forgotten by the galaxy, but not by humanity. Humanity would remember, and humanity would answer. Deep beneath the ice of Siberia, there was a place that did not exist on any map. The tunnels went down for miles, hidden from satellites and scanners. This was Earth's greatest secret, the place where humanity kept its true power. Ambassador Quillen walked through the cold metal corridors with obvious disgust. He was an insectoid creature, ancient and proud, with 6 legs and compound eyes that saw in every direction. He had served the Galaxy Council for 2,000 years. He had seen many primitive species try to build militaries. They were always disappointing. I must say, Quillen clicked in his strange language, I expected more from your species. 300 years of peace, and this is your military? Underground tunnels? How quaint. Admiral Seo Hyunwoo walked beside him. The admiral was 70 years old, the last living veteran of Earth's final internal war. His body was thin, and his hair was white, but his eyes were sharp as knives. He had been waiting for this day for a very long time. We thank you for observing, Ambassador, Hyunwoo said politely. The Council wants to see our preparations. We are happy to show you. Behind them walked Commander An Suji. She was 45, tall and cold, with a face that showed no emotion. She was Hyunwoo's best student, and she would one day take his place. Next to her was Corporal Lee Do-hyun, a young Marine of 22. He had never seen real combat. He had never seen anyone die. He was about to learn. They reached a massive door. Hyunwoo pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door slowly opened. Quillen expected to see old weapons, chemical rockets, simple railguns, the primitive tools of a primitive species. What he saw made his 6 legs freeze. The room was the size of a city, and it was full of warships, thousands of them, sleek, black, covered with weapons that Quillen did not recognize. They hung in the air like sleeping giants, waiting to wake up. What is this? Quillen whispered. This is the Ghost Fleet, Hyunwoo said calmly. 5,000 warships, hidden in dimensional pockets for 300 years. When we joined the galaxy, you told us to disarm. We agreed. Publicly, Quillen's compound eyes widened. You lied to the Council. We survived. Hyunwoo began walking between the massive ships. For 300 years, we watched. We learned. Every species that visited Earth. We studied their technology. Every weapon, every shield, every engine. We took the best ideas and made them better. Suji stepped forward. The Velthari use plasma cannons. Our ships have adaptive shields that absorb plasma and convert it to energy. Their armor is strong against lasers. Our weapons use kinetic rounds that move at half the speed of light. For every strength they have, we built a counter. Quillen felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. This is impossible, he said. The Council has monitored Earth. We would have detected construction of this scale. Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a warm smile. You monitored what we wanted you to see. Old factories making farming equipment. Research centers studying medicine. You saw peaceful humans doing peaceful things. You never thought to look deeper. Because to you, we were just primitives, emotional creatures with short lives and small brains. They entered another room. This one was full of soldiers. Thousands of them. Standing perfectly still in special chambers. They wore black armor and had tubes connected to their bodies. What is this? Quillen asked. Adrenaline protocol soldiers, Suji explained. Modified humans. When activated, they enter a state we call the red mind. They feel no pain, no fear, no hesitation. They will fight until their bodies physically cannot move anymore. Do-hyun stared at the soldiers. He had trained hard to join the military. He thought he was ready for war. But looking at these modified humans, he was not sure anymore. They did not look like soldiers. They looked like weapons. Quillen turned to Hyunwoo. This is madness. The Council will not allow this. You will be sanctioned. Quarantined. Perhaps destroyed. Hyunwoo stopped walking. He turned to face the ambassador, and his old eyes burned with cold fire. The Council let the Velthari destroy our station. 40,000 humans died while your fleets did nothing. You called us low priority. The Admiral stepped closer. We have been low priority for 300 years. We have been taxed and ignored and treated like animals. But we are not animals, Ambassador. We are humans. He pressed a button on the wall. A hologram appeared, showing a single word in the human language. Total war. Do you know what this means? Hyunwoo asked. Quillen shook his head. Galactic species fight with rules. You have codes of honor. You protect civilians. You negotiate surrenders. You fight until one side asks for peace, and then you stop. Hyunwoo's voice grew harder. Humans do not fight this way. When we go to war, we do not stop until the enemy is completely destroyed. Their armies, their cities, their ability to ever threaten us again. We burn everything. The ambassador stepped back. His legs were shaking. You are monsters, he whispered. No, Hyunwoo said softly. We are survivors. The universe is dark and cold and full of things that want to kill us. We learned long ago that mercy is a luxury. Kindness is a gift for peacetime. But in war, there is only one rule. Win. At any cost. Quillen turned and hurried toward the exit. He had seen enough. He had seen too much. That night, he sent a classified message to the Galaxy Council. His hands were still shaking as he typed. Urgent. Highest priority. We have made a terrible mistake. The humans did not forget war. They perfected it. If the Velthari do not surrender immediately, I fear what humanity will do. These creatures are not primitives. They are predators. And we have been living among them for 300 years without knowing it. The Council received the message. They read it with growing horror, but by then, it was already too late. The Galaxy Council's great fleet was supposed to be unbeatable. 10,000 warships from 50 species, carrying weapons that had kept peace for 10,000 years. They met the Velthari at the edge of the Nexus system, confident they would crush the invaders in hours. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, the Council fleet was gone. 8,000 ships destroyed. 2,000 running away. The Velthari had lost only 900 vessels. The galaxy watched in shock. The great powers, the ancient empires, the species who had ruled the stars for millennia, had been defeated like children. The Velthari were not stopping. They moved through system after system, destroying everything in their path. In desperation, the Council did something they never thought they would do. They asked humans for help. Admiral Hyunwoo received the request with a cold smile. He agreed to help, but only on one condition. Human forces would operate independently. No rules, no restrictions, no interference. The council had no choice. They accepted. Captain Park Jin-ho volunteered to lead the first strike force. He no longer looked like the tired merchant captain he had been weeks ago. His eyes were empty now, filled with nothing but purpose. His wife and daughter were dead. His old life was gone. All that remained was the mission. "Captain," Lieutenant Yuna said as they prepared for launch, "Command is giving us 50 ships. The Velthari have 800 at Nexus 7. I know. That is 16 to 1 odds." Jinho turned to face her. "Do you trust me, Lieutenant?" Yuna did not hesitate. "With my life." "Then trust me now. We are not going to fight them. We are going to break them." The 50 human ships jumped to Nexus 7. They were smaller than the Velthari warships, faster and harder to hit. But size was not their advantage. Insanity was. The Velthari commander watched the human ships appear on his sensors. He laughed. 50 against 800? These primitives had come to die. Then the first human ship accelerated directly toward his flagship, not firing, not maneuvering, just flying straight at full speed. "What are they doing?" the commander asked. The ship hit his flagship at half the speed of light. The explosion destroyed both vessels instantly. But just before impact, a small shuttle had ejected from the human ship. The crew had escaped at the last second. The commander's second ship was hit moments later. Then a third. Then a fourth. The humans were using their ships as weapons, flying them directly into enemy vessels, ejecting their crews at the last moment. It was suicide. It was madness. It was terrifying. "All ships, target the human shuttles," the Velthari admiral screamed through the communication system. "Stop those maniacs." But the humans had another surprise. Lieutenant Yuna opened a channel to every Velthari frequency, and she began broadcasting. The sound that filled Velthari ships was horrible. Screaming, crying, the voices of Velthari prisoners captured from earlier battles, being tortured by human forces. It was not real. It was a recording designed to sound real. Psychological warfare. The humans had learned it long ago. Velthari soldiers froze at their stations. Their focus broke. Their coordination failed. And then the real attack began. Engineer Nari had been working for days without sleep. She had found a weakness in Velthari computer systems. A small door that no one had noticed. Now, she opened it. Across the Velthari fleet, weapons systems turned on their own ships. Point defense cannons that were supposed to shoot down missiles began firing at bridges and engines. Navigation computers sent ships crashing into each other. It was chaos. Complete, total chaos. Dr. Teho stood in the medical bay of the Starling. But there were no patients today. Today, the gentle doctor held a rifle. He had not fired a weapon in 40 years. Not since Earth's last war. When he was young, and the world was burning. "I hoped I would never do this again," he said quietly. Nari looked at him. "Do what?" "Kill." Teho checked his weapon. "I became a doctor to save lives. To heal instead of harm. But some things cannot be healed. Some things can only be cut out." The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, 340 Velthari ships were destroyed. Human losses were 12 vessels. The survivors were retrieved and celebrated. The council observers did not celebrate. They watched in silent horror. This was not war as they understood it. This was something else. Something primal, and brutal, and unstoppable. Jinho stood on the bridge of the Starling, looking at the debris field that filled the screen. Broken ships, frozen bodies. The remains of an enemy that had killed his family. "Captain," Yuna said softly, "we won." Jinho did not smile. "This is not winning, Lieutenant. This is just the beginning." Far away, in the Velthari home system, the High Command received footage of the battle. They watched humans crash ships into their enemies. They heard the screaming broadcasts. They saw their own weapons turn against them. For 6,000 years, The Velthari had conquered. They had never known fear. They had never faced an enemy they could not understand. Now they understood something terrible. They were not the predators anymore. The Velthari Emperor sat alone in his throne room, watching the footage for the 5th time. His advisors wanted to speak with him. His generals wanted orders. But he could not move. Could not think. "What are these creatures?" he whispered to the empty room. No one answered. But the footage kept playing. Human ships burning through his fleet. Human voices laughing on the radio. Human soldiers surviving impossible situations through pure, stubborn will. The Emperor made a decision. He would send every ship, every soldier, every weapon, to stop the humans. He would crush them before they could grow stronger. It was the worst decision he would ever make. The Ghost Fleet woke up. 5,000 human warships emerged from their hiding places and spread across the galaxy like a dark wave. Commander On Suji led the main force. Admiral Hyunwoo stayed on Earth, directing the overall strategy. The counterattack had begun. Corporal Lee Do-hyun stood in the transport ship, surrounded by other Marines. They were heading to a Velthari agricultural world. Intelligence said the planet supplied food to the enemy fleet. Without it, the Velthari would starve. "Remember your training," the sergeant said. "Fast and clean, no hesitation." Do-hyun gripped his weapon tighter. He had trained for 2 years. He had scored highest in his class. He thought he was ready for war. He was wrong. The Marines landed at dawn. The Velthari settlement was small. Maybe 5,000 people. Farmers, not soldiers. They had no weapons. No defenses. They stood in the streets, confused and afraid, as human ships filled their sky. Commander Suji's voice came through the radio. "Destroy the food production facilities. All of them." Do-hyun followed orders. He watched as his fellow Marines burned fields of strange alien crops. They destroyed storage buildings filled with grain. They poisoned water treatment plants. The Velthari farmers screamed and cried, but there was nothing they could do. An old Velthari female approached Do-hyun. She was holding a small child, probably her grandchild. She spoke in broken galactic common. "Please, why? We are not soldiers. We are just farmers. We are just farmers." Do-hyun did not know what to say. He looked at the child. It had 4 eyes, all of them filled with tears. It did not look like a monster. It looked like a scared little kid. "I am sorry," Do-hyun whispered. "I am so sorry." He walked away. Behind him, more buildings burned. On the command ship, Suji watched the operation on her screen. Ambassador Quillen stood beside her, his compound eyes wide with horror. "This is madness," Quillen said. "These are civilians, non-combatants. The rules of war clearly state." "The Velthari destroyed our space station," Suji interrupted. Her voice was flat and cold. 40,000 civilians, families, children. Did they follow the rules of war? 2 wrongs do not make a right. You are becoming the very monsters you claim to fight. Suji turned to face him. Her eyes were empty, like windows into nothing. "You do not understand humans, Ambassador. We are not becoming monsters. We have always been monsters. We simply hide it well during peacetime." She looked back at the screen. "The Velthari attacked our people. Now their people will suffer. That is the price. That is the lesson. Hurt us, and we will hurt you 10 times worse." The campaign continued for weeks. Human forces attacked Velthari supply lines, communication networks, and civilian infrastructure. Millions died. Not soldiers, farmers, workers, teachers, children. People who had never held a weapon. Captain Jinho led mission after mission. Each victory felt hollow. Each burning city reminded him of the space station, of his wife, of his daughter. One night, Dr. Teho found him alone in the cargo bay. Jinho was sitting in the dark, staring at a small photograph. His family, smiling, happy, alive. "Captain," Teho said softly, "you should rest." "I cannot sleep." Jinho's voice was barely a whisper. When I close my eyes, I see them. Not my family, the Velthari, the ones we killed today, yesterday, the day before. Tejo sat beside him. I know. I see them too. We are not the good guys anymore, are we? Jinho looked at his old friend. We are doing exactly what they did to us. We are killing innocents. Burning homes. Creating orphans. Tejo was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, in war, there are no good guys. There are only survivors and victims. We are trying to be survivors. Is it worth it? All this death, all this destruction, just so we can survive? I do not know. Tejo looked at the photograph. I only know that if we lose, no one will remember your wife, your daughter, the 40,000 people on that station. Their deaths will mean nothing. But if we win, maybe their sacrifice will protect future generations. Maybe human children will grow up safe because of what we did. Jinho closed his eyes. And what about Velthari children? Do they not deserve safety too? Tejo had no answer. In the Velthari throne room, the emperor watched reports of his dying empire. Every day brought news of another defeat. Another burned world. Another million dead. His advisors had begged him to surrender. His generals had told him the war was lost. But he had refused. The Velthari had never surrendered. They were conquerors. Masters of the stars. Now they were losing. To primitives. To emotional, short-lived creatures who should have been easy to crush. The emperor finally understood something. The humans were not fighting for territory. They were not fighting for resources or power. They were fighting because they were hurt. Because they were angry. Because they wanted revenge. And they would not stop until they got it. With shaking hands, the emperor activated a communication channel. He recorded a message and sent it to the Galaxy Council. We surrender. Unconditionally. Completely. We will accept any terms. Any punishment. Please. We beg you. Make the humans stop. We cannot fight them anymore. No one can fight them. They are not like us. They do not stop. They do not forgive. They just keep coming. Please. Please make them stop. The message spread across the galaxy. Species who had doubted human strength now watched in fear. The mighty Velthari, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, were begging for mercy, and somewhere in the dark of space, human ships continued to advance. The war was almost over, but the galaxy would never be the same. The war ended on a quiet morning. The Velthari emperor signed the surrender document with trembling hands. His empire, which had stood for 6,000 years, was finished. His fleet was destroyed. His worlds were occupied. 60% of his people were dead. It was the most complete defeat in galactic history. The Galaxy Council called an emergency meeting on their capital world. Every species sent their highest representative. 2,000 delegates filled the Great Assembly Hall, a room built to celebrate peace and cooperation. Today, it was filled with fear. Admiral Seo Hyunwoo entered the hall slowly. He was old and tired. The war had taken much from him. But his eyes were still sharp, still burning with quiet strength. Behind him walked Captain Jinho, Commander Suji, and the surviving crew of the Starling. The delegates watched them in silence. Some looked angry. Some looked terrified. A few looked impressed. But all of them understood that everything had changed. The Speaker of the Council, a tall blue creature with silver robes, stood at the central platform. His voice echoed through the hall. Humanity has committed terrible acts during this conflict. Civilian targets destroyed. Infrastructure demolished. Populations devastated. He paused. Many here believe Earth should face consequences. Some have called for quarantine. Others have suggested more extreme measures. Whispers filled the hall. Extreme measures. Everyone knew what that meant. Some species wanted to destroy humanity before they became too powerful. Hyunwoo stepped forward. His voice was calm, but it carried to every corner of the massive room. May I speak? The speaker hesitated, then nodded. Hyunwoo walked to the center of the hall. He looked around at the thousands of faces watching him. Aliens of every shape and color. Species that had ruled the stars when humans were still living in caves. 300 years ago, Hyunwoo began. You welcomed us into your galaxy. You called us children. Primitives. Emotional creatures with short lives and limited minds. You were kind to us, in the way that adults are kind to children. You gave us a small corner of space and told us to be grateful. He paused. The hall was completely silent. We were grateful. We wanted to learn from you. We wanted to be your friends. We asked for nothing except respect and fairness. His voice hardened. And what did we receive? Our ships were searched without cause. Our colonies were taxed unfairly. Our people were treated as lesser beings. Hyunwoo looked at Ambassador Quillen, who sat among the council representatives. When the Velthari came, we sent distress signals. We begged for help. And you told us we were not a priority. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. 40,000 humans died on that station. Families. Children. Innocent people who never hurt anyone. And you did nothing. Hyunwoo's eyes swept across the room. So we saved ourselves. And we saved you. The speaker cleared his throat. The methods used were effective. Hyunwoo's voice cut through like a knife. The Velthari are defeated. Their empire is broken. They will never threaten anyone again. That is what we promised. That is what we delivered. He began walking slowly around the hall, meeting the eyes of different delegates. You want to know what humanity is? I will tell you. We are fragile. We live short lives. We feel pain and fear and sadness deeply. We love our families with fierce devotion. We dream of better futures for our children. He stopped walking. These things make us weak, you think. These things make us primitive. Hyunwoo smiled. It was not a warm smile. You are wrong. These things make us dangerous. Because when you threaten what we love, we do not calculate cost and benefit. We do not consider long-term strategy. We simply destroy whatever hurt us, completely, permanently, without mercy. The silence in the hall was absolute. The galaxy has been at peace for 10,000 years. You have forgotten what real war looks like. You fight with rules and honor and careful limitations. You stop when the enemy asks for peace. Hyunwoo shook his head. Humans do not fight this way. When we go to war, we do not stop until the threat is gone forever. We do not forgive. We do not forget. He returned to the center of the hall and faced the speaker directly. You fear us now. Good. You should. But we do not want you as enemies. We want to be your partners, your allies, your friends. We want peace as much as any species here. His voice softened. My wife was a teacher. She believed in kindness and understanding. My daughter wanted to be a doctor. She wanted to help people. They died because the galaxy forgot them. Because humanity was not important enough to protect. Hyunwoo's eyes glistened, but his voice remained steady. So here is Earth's message to the galaxy. Leave us in peace. Trade with us. Learn from us. Let us learn from you. We have much to offer, and we ask only to be treated fairly. He straightened his back. But if you threaten our children, our homes, our future, we will show you what we showed the Velthari. We will remind you why our ancestors were the apex predators of our world. We will teach you what war really means. He looked around the room one final time. Never bring humans to war again. The silence stretched for a long moment. Then, slowly, the speaker nodded. The Council will vote on Resolution 7701. The Human Protection Accord. Full sovereignty for Earth. Expanded territory. A permanent seat on the Inner Council, and a guarantee that no military action against human interests will be permitted without facing collective response. The vote was unanimous. 1 year later, Captain Jinho returned to the place where Orbital Station 12 had been. The debris had been cleared, but the memory remained. He stood on the bridge of a new ship, looking at the empty space where his family had died. Lieutenant Yuna, now Captain Yuna, commanded her own vessel. Dr. Tejo had opened a clinic for war refugees, healing the wounds that combat could not touch. Engineer Nari taught at Earth's Academy of Sciences, inspiring a new generation. Commander Suji had become Admiral Suji, leader of Earth's fleet. Every night, alone in her quarters, she read a list of names. Every civilian who had died by her orders, she would carry that weight forever. Corporal Do-hyun had left the military. He could not forget the old Velthari woman with the crying child. He worked now at a shelter for war orphans, trying to repair a small piece of what he had broken. Jinho reached into his pocket and pulled out a small paper lantern. It was a Korean tradition, a way to honor the dead. He had written his wife's name on one side and his daughter's name on the other. Carefully, he released it through the airlock. The tiny light drifted into the darkness of space, spinning slowly among the stars. "I am sorry I could not protect you," he whispered. "But I kept our people safe. I hope that is enough." Centuries later, the story became legend. Young species joining the assembly learned about the Velthari War. They watched footage of the battles, read the speeches, studied the aftermath, and in every academy, on every world, the lesson ended the same way. Never underestimate a human. Never threaten what they love. And above all else, never bring them to war. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were capable of. They would never forget again.